I recently came across a video which talked about how to increase your study effectiveness with a few tips, and I find it quite interesting. So today I'll go deeper into it. And so, firstly, how does the brain store information? And so, basically, when you learn new information, it's temporarily is encoded in your brain in the area called the hippocampus. And as you continue to study the same piece of information, you sort of reactivate the same neurons that store that piece of information in the brain, and so it strengthens the connection between those neurons. And so eventually you'll be able to, because you go over it quite a few times, you'll be able to go from the short term information into the long term memory. And so the short term is stored in the hippocampus, and the long term is stored in the neocortex. And what helps with transitioning from short term to long term memory is sleep, and also having good study sessions. And it really shows how important these are, because I remember so many times where I just gone to bed really late, because maybe like 1 or even 2 o'clock, because maybe I was studying, or maybe I was playing games, or I guess anything, but staying up late. You can really see the effects, because the next day you start to tire out and you can't really remember a lot of the things that you've learned from the day before. And so going to sleep early and having a good sleep schedule can really help you retain that information. And same with having good study sessions, where frequent study sessions can also help you go over and really imprint those things into your mind. And so the first tip is to basically test yourself with flashcards and quizzes. And it's sort of good because it's a form of active learning, where you're basically forcing your brain to retrieve and sort of get back the knowledge that's been stored in your brain. And so you'll also be able to see your gaps, and you're also able to see the gaps in your knowledge through this as well, where like maybe if you're trying to test yourself and you just remember that you don't know what a term means, then you can go over it and correct it. And I always sometimes use this thing before maybe tests, where as I'm going to a test with my friends, I will maybe we test each other, and if we don't know some terms, then we can just go back and correct them. So for example, in before a Japanese test, which I do, maybe I don't know the word for tree, and then my friend could maybe tell me, and I'll write it down and practice it, and then I'll be able to know it. And then also what some people do is they do passive learning, where maybe like highlighting or rereading notes. And yes, it can be quite helpful, but it's not a really efficient use of your time, as you could be doing flashcards or tests instead. What you could also do is summarizing your notes, where you're rereading them, but you're also shortening them and sort of actively writing things down to strengthen your memory. Another tip is sort of linked to the first one, where with flashcards and quizzes, if you also add things from other subjects or other topics in there as well. So maybe if you wanted to, maybe if you had a few tests for the next week, you should compress them into one flashcard set, and that's quite good, because it's sort of, because there's so much more terms and stuff that you need to know, and it sort of like stretches your brain and forces it to work harder. And because it's working harder, it sort of makes you study more effectively, and and it also sort of, it does make you forget them a bit more often, but then you retrieve them also more often. So therefore, eventually, you will be able to memorize things more easily and more effectively. And finally is spacing. And so it's good because it allows for rest and sleep between your study sessions. And you shouldn't be, I guess, drilling the same things like over and over every single day, because it is sort of going to help, but it's not really a good use of your time. And what is good is maybe starting from every day, and then maybe every 2 days, spacing out to 3 days and maybe a week, and then maybe months, where you don't really have to keep drilling it every single day because your memory still stays there. But yeah, just try and find a time where you just about before you're going to forget the information, and then go over it again to sort of get the maximum gain for just memorizing and retaining information. And so yeah, I think overall the most important points are that firstly, try and use active learning, where maybe using flashcards or testing yourself, or just summarizing instead of just reading and highlighting. And also try and mix in things from other subjects as well, or other topics from that same subject, because having a wider range makes your brain work harder, and it makes you sort of, yeah, because your brain is working harder, you're memorizing or retaining more information. And also remember to space, because you don't always have to be going over the same thing every single day, but and you can have the same amount of effectiveness going over things and spacing them out. So I think, yeah, I hope you learned something. So thanks for listening.